Hey, what's going on, family? Back with part two of this Megan Williams hate crime case story. So let me just jump right back into reading the article. Prosecutors have backed off state hate crime charges, saying they only carry an additional 10-year maximum penalty and could complicate their case. Now, stop right there, family. Now, if we look at the Chicago case, remember all the white supremacists jumped up, hate crime, hate crime, hate crime, right? And on day one, when it first happened, I will admit, yes, the Chicago PD and would not yet jump to the hate crime conclusion. Uh, it took one day, right? And then the next day, the very next day, the Chicago PD said that they're going to proceed with a hate crime, right? So it took them. They played the game of, we're not going to jump to a hate crime for one day for the white supremacists. Now us, we get it for months on end, or it just never happens. All right, because hate crimes are just so difficult. They're just they're just so tough to figure out. Uh, you know, oh my God, the bar is so high, but it takes a little bit over 24 hours for you to determine that these black kids who never used a racial slur committed a hate crime. But, and again, let me say this, referring to white people as white people is not a slur. First of all, fuck is not a slur, nor is white people a slur. Fuck, the word fuck is not a racial slur, nor is the word white people a racial slur. If a white person says, I saw some black people yesterday, that's not using a racial slur. But that was enough evidence for a hate crime. But getting raped by a coat hanger, being called watermelon boy and chicken eater, and having to sing Klan songs while it's being done, oh, that's not a hate crime. Nor is this case where they said, this is what we do to niggers. So they're telling her why they did it, what the motivation was, racial animus. Yes, I'm yelling a little bit, family, because the glaring hypocrisy is so obvious, it's painful. And part of the reason why it's painful, family, is because we still don't have the courage to stand up to these white supremacists. When they look you in your face and say clear hate crimes are not hate crimes, but when they get you to condemn the Chicago incident, to even say it was wrong, you're justifying those biased ass hate crime charges that they brought against those kids, but they will not bring to white kids. You know why they won't condemn what the white kid did? Because he's not getting hate crime charges. See, they know how to protect their own. We don't. They know better than to condemn him, because that will justify hate crime charges and punishment for being a white supremacist, which is hurtful, harmful to all of them. Punishing white supremacists is bad for the system of white supremacy. Sometimes it has to happen, and sometimes it's good for it, because it prevents, I think it prevents, and this is a theory, I could be wrong, because the black people as a race are coons, but too much open white supremacy brings rebellion. That's why we had the civil rights movement. Okay, after as much as we've been cowards and intellectually inferior compared to the white supremacists, and I'm saying that, I'm not saying that out of self-hate, I'm just saying that out of facts, because we shouldn't be in the situation that we're in, because I have to talk about things like obvious hypocrisy that we don't get, that the fact that I have to debate people on Twitter about condemning this damn that I have to argue with dudes about condemning this so-called crime is proof that black people are intellectually inferior. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm a black person. Does that include me? Yes, probably. I don't think I'm the most intellectually inferior, but hey, I'm black, so hey, it's not beyond me either. But I'm just telling the truth with our people. We're a little bit slow because the white supremacists, and that's why the white supremacists mock us and laugh at us and know us to be dumb, and know that's why they can keep us. They don't really feel sorry for us. And if I was a white person, I probably wouldn't feel sorry for black people either, because look how fucking dumb you are. They are clearly being hypocrites and trying to get you to throw your own people under the bus while they refuse to do it. And 98% of you niggas will go for it. I don't know how many videos. I never clicked on none of them. But I remember when I was watching, you know how when you watch YouTube and you see different videos on the same topic or related videos, right? When I was watching some of our peoples who know what the hell they're talking about videos on this case, you know, the little suggestions underneath. Of course, there were some white supremacist takes on it that was suggested for you to click on. But there was also some coon takes, several coon takes. I remember one was with some black chick who she's some kind of gamer, and her picture and her the screen cap of the thumbnail of the video was her with her hands over her mouth watching the video, looking oh so horrified and shocked. Like, you dumbass bad wench bitch, take your ass off YouTube. Look, okay, family, I'm sorry. I kind of went way, I know I'm supposed to be reading this article and I went way off topic, but even though I went off topic, this relates. I get frustrated with black people because this shit's got to stop. If we had a little bit more common sense, white supremacy might be over. I'm not saying it would be, definitely, but it just might be over, or a lot less forceful than it is. Because this hypocrisy is so obvious, but we give into it every single time. You let these hypocritical white supremacists cry for a hate crime and get it within less than 24 hours. Yet and still, again, I was speaking about those YouTube videos. Yet and still, I promise you, you can find over 50, if not 100 videos of white supremacists crying about that one day that they wouldn't call it a hate crime. Meanwhile, that boy who was raped never got it called a hate crime. Let me finish reading the article. I apologize for the anger, family, but I get frustrated sometimes. For one, hate crimes typically involve strangers, and Williams knew one of the suspects. She filed a charge of domestic assault against him in July. Williams has been advised not to discuss anything about her prior dealings with the suspects or the more graphic details of her experience. But when Williams does detail her alleged torture, it comes in fits. Horrifying, disjointed memories of all that she allegedly endured spill forth while she fidgets and frowns. They braided some switches together and beat me across the back, she said. They tore my clothes off me and everything, and they took me up to the lake, and they said that was the place they were going to cut my throat and throw me in. Williams looks off into the distance at the end of each recollection. She often falls quiet, reverting to yes and no answers, each response swiftly punctuated with ma'am. At times, she reaches up to touch her scalp where her hair was cut off and yanked out during her ordeal. Megan's adoptive mother, Carmen Williams, said her daughter is not at full capacity, mentally, and easily trusted others. She's a little slow, so it's hard for her to comprehend sometimes, she said, so I think that played a big part in it. Suspects in the case have outlined a series of sexual crimes. Statements from Frankie Brewster and her son Bobby Brewster allege that Williams was forced to perform oral sex on Frankie Brewster under the threat of death. Again, let me stop right there, family. Frankie Brewster is the mother. Frankie Brewster and her son Bobby Brewster allege that Williams was forced to perform oral sex on Frankie Brewster. So, and I'm gonna tell you, family, I've read other articles. I'm reading this article. I chose to read this article for the video, but I've read other articles on this just as some preliminary research. Not only did this mother force a young female to perform oral sex on her. So for you, a lot of you, and this is kind of a real quick talking to you black feminists who want to sit up here and join up with white women on this demonizing all men, and especially black men, because the white females never join with you to go against a white male. But you want to jump on their bandwagon to persecute black men about being these big time sexual assaultists or rapists or whatever, assaulters, right? You want to demonize black men for being these domestic abusers, etc., 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 right? Meanwhile, when you get in the hands of some white supremacists, not only will the white males sexually assault you, but the white females will sexually assault you. But you want to make black men the poster child of sexual assault, when on the slave plantations, black men and women were getting sexually assaulted by white men and women. Yes, white women were sexually assaulting black women on the plantation. White men were sexually assaulting black men on the plantation. White women were sexually assaulting black men, and white women and white men were sexually assaulting black women, obviously. It was going all ways. And every white supremacist, female or male, had the capacity to perform sexual assault on black people, male or female. The gender did not influence the perpetrator or the victim. It has no influence on who the perpetrator or the victim is. Women sexually assaulted men and women, and men sexually assaulted men and women. No boundaries. And she did this in front of her son. So this sick ass mom, you don't even have the decorum to not have sexual acts in front of your own damn children. What kind of son, whether your mom's gay or straight, is watching his mother get her pussy ate? In this case, it's a goddamn rape. And then she's going to stand by while her own son rapes that same person. So a mother and a son are having sex with the same person. They probably have sex with each other if they're already willing to go that far. Mom is already looking at son's penis, having intercourse in the room, and son is already looking at mom's vagina in the same fucking room while sex acts are being performed. Well, you know what they say about hillbillies. This is proof that it's true. Anyway, back to the story. Williams was formed to perform, and let's not forget the what I said in part 1, that they made her eat fecal matter. So you made someone eat feces, and then you made them put that feces mouth on your genitals. Was forced to perform oral sex on Frankie Brewster under the threat of death. Then she was forced to perform oral sex on Danny Combs at knife point. She was made to lick their toes, raped, and humiliated. They said I was never going to see my family again, Megan Williams said. It was that fear that led her to cut her duct tape constraints with a knife she had hidden away. She then hung her tiny arms out the small window of the shed she was kept in, yelling for help. Williams said a guy named Eddie heard her calls, and she believes he called for help. Within hours, deputies responded to an anonymous tip and came to the Brewster trailer asking for Williams by name. She had no doubt that if the police hadn't shown up, she would be dead. Memories of the captivity haunt Williams in the form of terrifying dreams. Every time I close my eyes, all I see is that knife, the one they kept stabbing and stabbing me with, she said. I was screaming, I was crying, and they were kicking me. Large scabs cover her left leg where her ankle was cut and her thigh was stabbed 3 times, and she still walks with a slight limp. She has received hundreds of cards and gifts from as far away as Iraq. She hopes to use her donations to her trust fund to obtain her GED and attend college. She speaks of becoming a nurse's assistant. She is slowly gaining weight, and her face lights up when asked about her favorite food. Ribs from Save-A-Lot, she said, grinning. Then she looks to her mother and laughs. All right, family, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. But I alluded to in part 1 and part 2 of this story that I was going to discuss why the Chicago hate crime was self-defense. Now, guys, understand that, sorry about that noise. That was my phone notifying me of something. But understand, as I just pointed to you guys out about the hypocrisy, right? Now, I don't like having to discuss this like openly, because I know that black people are not allowed to have private spaces, that the white supremacists have an endless obsession with our channels, and they show up and they watch everything that we do. Okay. So I would rather be on code and not reveal the reason why, the real reason why I'm saying this. But because I want y'all to understand why I'm saying this, I'm going to explain it. I was touching on earlier when I was a little bit upset that this is clear and blatant hypocrisy. Now, if you guys remember my video about the Chicago hate crime, I discussed this blatant hypocrisy in further detail than I did here. It's not that they don't know. They do know. They just don't care. Stop trying to convince yourself that they don't understand. They do understand. It's all about winning with them. I'm not going to repeat everything I said in the other video, but that's how Freddie Gray breaks his own back. It's not about right or wrong. It's about winning and domination. And you as a black person have no choice but to fight back or be dominated. There is no, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to think of it that way. You can tell yourself that, and that's just going to get you dominated. That is what is getting us dominated. That's why we can't get any hate crime charges for the things that they do, no matter what they do. If you can't get a hate crime charge for raping someone with a coat hanger and singing Watermelon Boy and Chicken Eater, then you just can't get a hate crime charge on white people unless they choose to put out a hate crime charge on someone like Dylan Roof, who was a white sacrifice. If you don't know what a white sacrifice is, you guys really need to get up on Brother Neely Fuller. All right. Dylan Roof was a white sacrifice. The white supremacists will sacrifice a white person in order to maintain the system of white supremacy. That's the only time that white people get charged with hate crimes, is when they determine that this person has already chosen to sacrifice themselves anyway. That's why Dylan Roof is saying he wants to die. He understands that he's a sacrifice in the system of white supremacy. You don't understand, because he's sacrificed in order to give black people the false impression that there's not a system of white supremacy when there is. That's why white sacrifices help to maintain the system of white supremacy. So anyway, family, I was talking about this open hypocrisy and the reason why they do it, because it's about winning and domination. It's not about fairness. It's not about logic. It's not about making sense. Fuck all of that. Subjugating someone based on color doesn't make any sense, but they still do it. And these are the people that run society, so they're not dumb. There are dumb white supremacists, and they don't run society. They just get to benefit off the smart white supremacists, which I touched on in that video. So family, I was saying how I'm going to explain how this Chicago hate crime was self-defense. That's why it was self-defense. They come up with the most ludicrous shit. I'm telling you, black people, if you must say anything to a white supremacist about this, you need to be rationalizing it the same way they rationalize complete nonsense to you. I don't give a fuck if you in your heart actually do think that what those kids did was wrong. To the white supremacists, you say, I think that kid was attacking them. I heard he had a school suspension. He was a thug. You make excuses for that shit. It was self-defense. Y'all didn't see what happened before the video. The real story, and I'm dead ass serious right now, family. You might think I'm joking, but I'm dead serious. The real story is that they were hanging out. Then he said that he supported Trump and he called them niggers. Now, in a system of white supremacy, we know that suspected white supremacists, we know that white supremacists have a history of violence and lynching. So he told them that he was a Trump supporter. He called them niggers. And he said they should be lynched. So out of self-defense, because these kids understand that white supremacists are very dangerous. So they felt very threatened. And they tied him up to restrain him. And then, they were a little bit, emotions were running high because this guy was being a white supremacist. So they said, fuck white people. And since he said he supported Donald Trump, they was telling him, hey, fuck Donald Trump too. Right? So that's why they said that. Because of what he said to them, they were scared for their lives. Because they were all hanging out, just having fun. This is what really happened. I'm telling you. You want to know where I got my information? It's what I heard. But I'm telling you, because it's a really reliable source. And some sources close to this incident, who I can't reveal to you who they are, told me that this is the real story of what happened. It was self-defense. If they let him go too soon, he might have came back with the Klan. So they had to hold him for a few hours till he calmed down. Anyway, family. So hopefully you guys get the gist of what I'm saying here. The Chicago incident was self-defense. So I don't know why you Sambos are out here condemning self-defense. George Zimmerman walked free from court because he was defending himself against Trayvon Martin. Well, these kids were just defending themselves against that white boy. Because he was a suspected white supremacist who used racial slurs against them. And then threatened historical racial violence against them. And so they had no choice but to protect themselves. And I mean, we can look at this kid's history. I heard he, stopped by a convenience store and robbed it right before he went to hang out with those kids. He's been suspended from school. This is just what I heard. He's been suspended from school several times. I heard he smoked weed before. I think this was a dangerous kid, family. So anyway, that's the video. Peace, love, and power. Out.